The alien species of the galaxy had always found human weapons amusing. When humanity first joined the Galactic Council 20 years ago, their primitive kinetic weapons became the subject of countless jokes across the known worlds. Captain Jake Miller stood in the weapons demonstration hall, watching as various alien races showed off their advanced energy weapons. The blue-skinned Alteans fired beams of pure plasma that could melt through titanium in seconds. The reptilian Vortex displayed their sonic disruptors that could shatter bone from 50 meters away. The insectoid Kresh demonstrated their bioacid, launchers that could dissolve armor like it was paper. When it came time for the human demonstration, murmurs of amusement rippled through the crowd. Jake stepped forward with Earth's standard military rifle, a simple projectile weapon that fired metal bullets using chemical propellant. "This is your weapon?" asked Commander Vex of the Altean Defense Force, his translator making his amusement. "Clear. You still use rocks?" The crowd erupted in laughter. Even the usually serious Vortak delegation was making their version of chuckling sounds. Jake fired at the test target. The bullet punched a clean hole through the metal plate, but compared to the devastation caused by alien weapons, it looked pathetic. "Fascinating," said Dr. Nira, a Kresh scientist. "Your species still relies on crude kinetic force. How primitive." The human delegation left the demonstration feeling humiliated. Earth's military was considered a joke by galactic standards. Human soldiers were seen as barely above security guards, useful only for menial tasks that didn't require real firepower. But Jake had a secret. Back on Earth, human scientists had been working on something new. Something that would change everything. Border system, Kepler 442. 3 months later, the peace of the galaxy shattered when the Ravagers arrived. Nobody knew where they came from, but their black ships appeared at the edge of civilized space like a plague of locusts. They were unlike any species the galaxy had encountered, mechanical beings housed in dark metal bodies, seemingly unstoppable and utterly ruthless. The first contact went badly. The Ravagers didn't communicate, didn't negotiate. They simply attacked. The Altean fleet was the first to engage them. Their plasma cannons, so impressive during demonstrations, barely scratched the Ravager hull plating. The beams that could melt titanium bounced off the enemy ships, like light hitting a mirror. Commander Vex's flagship, the Starfire, led the assault. "All ships, focus fire on their lead vessel," he commanded. Dozens of Altean warships concentrated their plasma beams on a single Ravager ship. The energy weapons lit up space like a deadly light show. But when the smoke cleared, the enemy vessel was undamaged. The Ravagers responded with weapons of their own, dark energy beams that cut through Altean shields like they didn't exist. Ship after ship exploded in brilliant fireballs. The Vortic fleet fared no better. Their sonic disruptors, designed to shatter organic targets, were useless against mechanical enemies. The Kresh bioacid proved equally ineffective against the Ravagers' advanced metallurgy. Within days, 3 major fleet battles had ended in devastating defeats for the galactic races. The aliens who had mocked human weapons were now fleeing in terror from an enemy their advanced technology couldn't touch. Emergency sessions were called at the Galactic Council. Panic filled the halls where once there had been arrogance and pride. "Their armor is unlike anything we've encountered," reported Admiral Zane of the Vortic Navy. "Our weapons can't penetrate it. We need to evacuate the outer colonies," urged Representative Kala of the Kresh. "These Ravagers are unstoppable." As the alien leaders debated retreat and surrender, Jake Miller sat quietly in the human section. He was thinking about the classified project back on Earth, the one that had been dismissed as another example of human primitive thinking. Earth Defense Command, Luna Base. While the galaxy panicked, Earth was preparing. The joke about human weapons was about to become deadly serious. Dr. Lisa Park stood before the massive Railgun assembly in Luna Base's testing facility. The weapon stretched for nearly a kilometer underground, its electromagnetic coils humming with barely contained energy. Final systems check complete, announced tech specialist Mark Chun. Railgun is ready for live fire test. General Roberts, head of Earth Defense Command, watched from the observation deck. Unlike the alien energy weapons that relied on exotic particles and complex physics, the railgun was beautifully simple in concept. It used electromagnetic fields to accelerate a solid projectile to incredible speeds. The beauty of kinetic energy, Dr. Park explained to the assembled officers, is that it doesn't care about your armor. When a tungsten rod hits at 30 kilometers per second, physics does the rest. The test target was a mock-up of Ravager hull plating, constructed from the strongest materials Earth could produce. The alien races had shared intelligence about the enemy's defenses, hoping someone might find a weakness. Charging complete, Mark announced. Ready to fire. Fire, General Roberts ordered. The railgun fired with a sound like thunder. There was no visible beam, no flashy energy discharge. Just a tungsten rod the size of a baseball, accelerated to speeds that made bullets look like thrown stones. Impact was devastating. The mock Ravager plating didn't just break, it vaporized. A kinetic energy was so intense that the target simply ceased to exist, turned into superheated plasma by the sheer force of impact. "Holy shit," whispered one of the observers. General Roberts was already on the communicator to Earth Command. "Project Thunderbolt is approved. Begin mass production immediately." Within hours, every major shipyard in the solar system was retooling to produce railgun systems. The same humans who had been mocked for their primitive weapons were about to unleash something the galaxy had never seen. The irony wasn't lost on Jake Miller when he received his new orders. Humanity had been excluded from serious military operations because their weapons were considered inadequate. Now they were being asked to save the galaxy with those same primitive kinetic weapons. Battle of Sigma Draonus. 2 weeks later, the human fleet arrived at Sigma Draonus, just as the Ravagers were finishing off the last of the Altian Defense Force. 40 Ravager ships hung in space like black scars against the stars, their dark hulls reflecting no light. Commander Vex's battered cruiser was among the few surviving Altian vessels. When he saw the approaching human ships, his heart sank. What could these primitive humans do against an enemy that had destroyed the galaxy's most advanced fleets? "Human vessel, this is Commander Vex," he transmitted. "You need to retreat immediately. These enemies are beyond anything we can handle." Jake Miller, now Admiral of the Human Expeditionary Force, responded calmly from the bridge of the UE Sephience. "We appreciate the warning, Commander. Please clear the engagement zone." The human fleet was smaller than what the aliens had brought. To previous battles, only 12 ships, but each vessel bristled with the new railgun arrays. Where alien ships mounted a few large energy weapons, human ships carried dozens of railgun barrels. "All ships, prepare for engagement," Jake ordered. "Remember, we only get one chance to make a first impression." The Ravagers detected the human fleet and began their approach. Their formation was confident, almost lazy. They had destroyed every force sent against them so far. These new ships would be no different. "Range, 50,000 kilometers and closing," reported Weapons Officer Emma Torres. "Railguns charged and ready." "Wait for optimal range," Jake commanded. "Let them get closer." At 20,000 kilometers, the Ravagers opened fire with their dark energy beams. The humans scattered, using their smaller size and better maneuverability to avoid the deadly beams. "Range, 15,000 kilometers, Emma announced. "All ships," Jake broadcast, "open fire." The human fleet unleashed hell. Dozens of railguns fired simultaneously, launching tungsten rods at incredible velocities. There were no flashy energy beams, no dramatic explosions, just solid metal moving at speeds that defied comprehension. The effect on the Ravager fleet was immediate and catastrophic. Ships that had shrugged off plasma cannons and disruptor beams were torn apart by kinetic impacts. Hulls that had seemed invulnerable crumpled like paper as tungsten rods punched through them at 30 kilometers per second. One Ravager ship exploded as a railgun round hit its power core. Another was cut completely in half by a perfectly placed shot. A third simply disintegrated under multiple impacts. Commander, Vex watched in stunned silence as the human weapons did what the galaxy's most advanced technology could not. They were actually hurting the Ravagers. Asterisk. Galactic Council Station. 1 month later, the aftermath of the Battle of Sigma Draonus changed everything. Word spread quickly through the galaxy. The humans, with their primitive kinetic weapons, had achieved what no one else could. They had stopped the Ravagers. The same aliens who had mocked human firepower now begged for Earth's protection. Emergency sessions of the Galactic Council focused on one topic: how to acquire human railgun technology. Commander Vex stood before the council, his blue skin showing the scars from his encounters with the Ravagers. "I saw it with my own eyes," he testified. "The human weapons tore through Ravager armor like it was nothing. Our energy weapons couldn't even scratch them." The mood in the council chamber was very different from the weapons demonstration months earlier, where once there had been laughter and condescension. Now there was fear and respect. Admiral Jake Miller addressed the assembled delegates. "The galaxy faces a threat that conventional weapons cannot stop, but Earth is prepared to share our railgun technology with all member species." The relief in the chamber was palpable. But Jake wasn't finished. "However," he continued, "we require certain guarantees. Human military advisors will oversee the installation and operation of these systems. Human tactical doctrine will be adopted by all allied fleets, and humanity will have equal representation in all military planning." The aliens who had once dismissed humans as primitive security guards now found themselves dependent on human expertise for their very survival. Dr. Nira of the Kresh delegation spoke up, her translator conveying obvious embarrassment. We may have underestimated human ingenuity. Your kinetic weapons are clearly superior to our energy systems against this particular threat." "It's not about superiority," Jake replied diplomatically. "It's about using the right tool for the job. Sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective." Within weeks, every major shipyard in the galaxy was producing railgun systems under human supervision. The weapons that had once been mocked as throwing rocks became the backbone of galactic defense. The Ravagers continued to probe the galaxy's borders, but now they faced fleets equipped with human railguns. Battle after battle ended in their defeat. The mechanical invaders, so confident in their impenetrable armor, found themselves outmatched by simple kinetic energy dot as Jake stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Defense Command, a facility. Now under human leadership, he reflected on how quickly things had changed. Humanity had gone from being the galaxy's comic relief to its savior. The final irony came during a joint training exercise. A young Altian officer asked his human instructor why the railguns were so effective when their plasma cannons weren't. Human Sergeant, a veteran of the Sigma Draonus battle, smiled as he explained, "Energy weapons are complex. They can be deflected, absorbed, or dispersed. But kinetic energy? That's just physics, and physics doesn't negotiate." The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about underestimating simple solutions. Human firepower was no longer a joke. It was the thin line between civilization and annihilation, the end asterisk.